So how you guys doing this morning? If we haven't yet met yet, my name is Chris, and I'm one of the pastors here at the church. And I got to ask you, how many of you have a car like that? Yeah, I don't mean like a Jetta. I mean like when you get inside, it's a little bit of a mess. Anyone? Anyone? Just, all right, good. We had some honesty the second time. Very good. I was going to call you out because I've ridden with many of you, and there's always kind of like, there's this awkward moment. I'm sure it's happened to you, right, where there's a few of you going somewhere, and somebody's like, hey, do you mind driving? You're like, yeah. I just have to clear a spot for you because my car technically seats 8, but right now it sort of seats 1, and you kind of have that moment. And, the car I feel like this type of year actually lends itself to this problem. I don't know about you, but, one day we decide, we're going to the beach. So then we got to put in all the beach chairs, all the beach toys. I have kids, so we've got the buckets, the pail. Sometimes we take the double stroller. We're all loaded up, right? Then you get home and you're tired and you're thinking, we might go to the beach tomorrow or next Thursday or sometime in the fall. I'm just going to leave this stuff here. I think there was one point a couple weeks ago in my car, I had the full beach setup and the baseball bag and a carburetor. That's what was just rolling around with me. It was like this Home Depot auto shop on wheels kind of thing. And I don't like it. I try to keep my car tidy, but it just happens. I think it happens to most people. Maybe for you, it's not your car. Maybe it's like your bedroom. You think, nobody goes in there but me, right? Does it really need to be that clean? Oh, yeah, I see. There's a lot of messy bedrooms right now, actually. I can tell. People are like, it's messy when I get home today. Or maybe it's your office, right? You've got maybe like a private cubicle, nobody bothers you, so you don't really keep it that clean. Or maybe it's a certain closet, or there's just, for almost everyone, there's just this kind of place that you just sort of let it go. For me, it's actually not the car, it's the garage. I'm not that good at keeping the garage tidy, so whenever I go in there and I need something, I just kind of like sneak in there and squint and grab what I need and like shut the door really fast and kind of put it off for another day. Now, I know some of you, a few of you, don't have any messy spot anywhere in your life. To you, I can recommend a counselor for you, okay? Because you have other issues. We're not going to talk about those today. But I'm actually jealous of you if you have no messy place, because I'm the worst kind of person, and I say that openly. I really want everything to be tidy. I just don't want to clean it. I want you to clean it. I want it to be clean for me, right? If you want to come see me in my office, that's great. Can you just clean it for me? That would be, I don't like for things to be messy, but I don't like to clean. And for today, we're going to call this, this sort of phenomenon where we have this part of life that we just kind of let it go. Some of it we keep very close and tidy and in control. Other parts of it we just let it go. Today, we're going to call that nearsightedness. If you have kind of a nearsighted problem in your life, that means some of the things that you see very well, you keep them clean, you keep them organized, and they're great. But there might be other things that are sort of out of focus, a little bit distant for you. Now, I don't wear glasses, so I had to actually look it up to make sure I had my nearsighted and my farsighted correct, okay? So just as the baseline to make sure we're all on the same page. If you are nearsighted, you can see things that are up close just fine. Okay, and it's the distant things that are hard for you to see. Those are the people who need to drive with their glasses on, okay? Please, if your license says that, do me a favor, throw the glasses on. All right, if you're farsighted, that means everything out there looks fine, but up close is hard. Those are the ones who read like this. They're just hoping for a longer arm because they're farsighted. That's the nearsighted and the farsighted. Interestingly, it's got to be the only type of medical phenomenon that's named by what you do well. Isn't that weird? Like, imagine going to the doctor for an x-ray and he's like, good news, your right leg is not broken. Like, yeah, left one is. Oh, okay. Like, it's just kind of weird, I think. It's like these optometrists are very optimistic or something. I don't get it. They just name it by what you do well. So today we're going to talk about this idea of being a little bit nearsighted. And I think it speaks directly to what's really a hot button issue in the church. And it's something that you really hear a lot about, actually. It's that buzzword that's kind of a terrible word, that word of hypocrites. I think we've heard this at some point in our life. Oh, the church is filled with hypocrites. Now, of course, if you mean the church is filled with people who aren't perfect, then that's absolutely true. But so often it gets taken beyond that. The church is full of hypocrites because this is such an easy syndrome for us to find ourselves in, this nearsightedness where some things are very close to us, we see them very clearly, but other things are further away. They're sort of out of focus. Now, if you're not sure what we mean by a hypocrite, it's very simple. You can write this down. It's a technical definition. A hypocrite is someone who complains about all of the sex and violence that's currently on their DVR. That is a hypocrite, okay? If you didn't get it yet, you'll get it in a minute when we're talking about something else, okay? Hypocrite, you sort of, oh, that's not right. You're not supposed to do that. And then you kind of have this little part of your life that you just kind of let it go, and it's still a little bit messy for you. And I don't know that being a hypocrite is almost always, or even usually, some sort of subterfuge. I don't know that a person who's struggling with this issue is trying to purposefully mislead. I think it's just an area that we all could grow in, because so oftentimes we're fooling ourselves or attempting to fool ourselves just as much as we're trying to fool anyone else. The writer Nathaniel Hawthorne said it this way: "No man for any considerable period can wear one face to himself and another to the multitude without finally getting bewildered as to which one may be true." So we don't want to have these two faces. We don't want to have kind of two fields of focus, the near and the far. We want to learn to live kind of an integrated, fully connected life. And that's really where we're going to drill down and focus today. We're continuing this series, God is Closer Than You Think, and we are in the book of Jeremiah. If you want, you could turn there. If you've been doing the readings with us, you know Jeremiah is a prophet to the nation of Judah. Okay? Judah is part of what was previously Israel. Israel and Judah had split. And this is the southern kingdom where Jerusalem was. So Judah still had the temple. In the northern kingdom, Israel, which had more land but no temple, the two of them had broken apart several generations before. And actually, at this point in history, Israel has already, the northern tribe, been taken captive by Assyria. They're no longer in command of their own land. Many of them have been removed forcibly by exile, and Judah is kind of all that's left of what used to be Israel. Okay, now, Israel wasn't taken over by Syria, which is a nation that exists today, but it's actually all kind of in the same region. Assyria is more like Iraq now. So that means if you're paying attention at all, like Iraq and Israel have been fighting since like 800 BC, okay? Some of these conflicts go back that far. And that's really what we're talking about here. So the nation of Judah, though, was still sovereign, still had the temple, and things were still sort of intact. In fact, at this point, when Jeremiah was preaching to them, things looked actually quite good. They were able to hold their borders. They weren't in any sort of famine or disaster. Things seemed to be going pretty well for them. So this is the sermon that Jeremiah delivered to them in chapter 7. It reads this way: "This is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Stand at the gate of the Lord's house, and there proclaim this message. Hear the word of the Lord, all you people of Judah who come through these gates to worship the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. Reform your ways and your actions, and I will let you live in this place. Do not trust in deceptive words and say, 'This is the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord.' If you really change your ways and your actions and deal with each other justly, if you do not oppress the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow, and do not shed innocent blood in this place, and if you do not follow other gods to your own harm, then I will let you live in this place, in the land I gave your ancestors forever and ever. But look, you are trusting in deceptive words that are worthless. Will you steal and murder, commit adultery and perjury, burn incense to Baal, and follow other gods you have not known? And then come stand before me in this house which bears my name and say, 'We are safe to do all these detestable things'? has this house, which bears my name, become a den of robbers to you? But I have been watching, declares the Lord. So Jeremiah goes to the temple and delivers to them this startling message of blinding nearsightedness. He's saying to them, you're coming to the temple and worshiping, but you're not living at all God's way outside of these temple grounds. Now, it's important not to miss that. In the first couple of verses, God told Jeremiah, go to the temple and basically stand in the outer court and deliver this message. And then he goes on to say, you have been terrible people. You've killed, you've maimed, you've stolen, you've lied, you've worshipped idols. I mean, he just delivers this scathing indictment to the people, basically right outside of church. I mean, if you just read this in a vacuum, I think you would say, well, obviously Jeremiah went to some really bad people to talk. Maybe he's at a prison. Maybe he went to tell the prisoners, I can't believe the way you've killed, the way you've maimed, the way you've destroyed. Or maybe he's at some sort of youth camp intervention style program to really deliver this scathing message. Maybe he's talking to really bad people. Maybe he's at an Eagles or a Phillies game or something, just surrounded by terrible people, right? Just awful. But he's not. He's at the church. It's exactly as if you had come here today, you had backed in your spot, and you were halfway in, and some guy just stops you and is like, hey, how's it going, murderer, child molester, spouse cheater? You'd be like, what is this? And I think that was exactly their response. They're saying, I can't believe you would speak to us this way. We're the good people. Like Jeremiah, dude, we just rolled up at church. I think you're a little bit confused. But that's exactly what Jeremiah is saying. And it teaches us a fundamental truth that we really need to understand about the Christian faith as a whole, is this. It is entirely possible to go through the motions of organized religion without actually encountering God. Okay, it is entirely possible to go through the motions of organized religion without actually encountering God. Now, we come here and we worship together, and everything that we do our best to make sure that it points towards God and that it's strategic and that it honors Him. But the activities that happen in this room, the routine that we go through, that isn't the calling that God has put on our lives as Christians. It is important to worship. We started this service by reading from the scriptures together to make sure we're oriented from the first minute that we're together, that it's about God and about His Word. But hearing those words read aloud, that doesn't make someone a Christian. Or we sang songs together, and as you might be singing them out loud, or you might be reflecting on those words, having that moment, that doesn't in and of itself make you a Christian. We received the elements of communion. Jesus literally told us to do this, to remember Him, and it's very important. But you know what? Eating these crackers and drinking this juice, that doesn't make a person a Christian. We buy it at Stop and Shop. Honestly, it's not this kind of, there's nothing magic about this particular juice and bread. It's just a moment that we remember, that we've chosen to set aside to say, Jesus, we reflect on the miracle of what you did. Sitting here, listening to sermons, it doesn't make a person a Christian. Standing here, preaching sermons, it doesn't make a person a Christian. A Christian is that integrated life, that when we really realize the proximity of God, how close He is, it's then that we become inspired to live for Him in all areas of life, living that truly integrated life. Now, the Jewish people had a particular stumbling block that they were suffering with at this particular moment. See, they were at the temple, which wasn't just a place to worship. The way that God really works in the world today, you can worship anywhere that you are, anywhere that you find, a quiet place, really. And there are thousands and perhaps even millions of houses of worship where people come together to praise. But it wasn't that way in this time. There was the temple, and God's presence was in the temple in a very special and unique way that doesn't exist today. It was just different. And so there was this teaching that was going around kind of by the false teachers of the day that they called it a temple theology. And the scholars are really together on this, that they feel like what happened was the nation of Judah had decided that because they had the temple on their land, because they had Jerusalem, that God would never let Jerusalem be taken over by foreigners. They just felt like God wouldn't do it. They felt like God would protect the temple to protect himself, because it would defame him to the other nations to have his temple fall and be destroyed or burned by the pagan nations that surrounded them. So they felt like God would never let the temple be taken. But they even took it further than that they really felt like because God's presence was in the temple and they were in the temple, that not only that God would not rise up against them, but that he could not rise up again, that it wasn't even possible. That because God's Spirit was in the temple, they felt like therefore God would never act against them because it would be like acting against himself. And so they sort of felt like the temple was this hideout where they could go there and not only hide from the surrounding nations, but even from God himself, to say we are perfectly safe here because we're in the temple. One of the other translations really grabs this, the NLT. In verse 4, it says, "Don't be fooled by those who promise you safety simply because the Lord's temple is here." They chant, "The Lord's temple is here, the Lord's temple is here." Jeremiah says, don't be fooled. And then he goes on, and later in our chapter, I'll just summarize it for you. He says, well, you think God would never allow you to be taken, would never rise up against you because of the temple. He says, what about the city of Shiloh? Shiloh was where the tabernacle was first set up when Israel became a sovereign nation. So when there was no temple, there was a tabernacle. That's where the tabernacle was. So at one point, God's presence was there, like it's in the temple. But hundreds of years ago, Shiloh was destroyed by Philistines back in the days of Samuel and Eli, before Israel even ever had a king. So Jeremiah is saying, you're trusting in Jerusalem as a sovereign city that God would never rise against it. Well, wasn't Shiloh our sovereign city? And now it's gone. Then Jeremiah says, even the northern tribes all came here, worshipped in this temple, and now they've all been taken into exile. And they backed themselves into this corner where they really kind of felt like that God owed them, that they were square. They say, God, we have done enough to earn your grace. We've come here, we've satisfied the routine, the feasts, the sacrifices, the observances, the prayers, the readings, we've done it, so now you have to do what we want. Sort of like this cosmic, give and take. And it's very important. We talked a lot last week about the sovereignty of God, and God has the ability, the opportunity, and the authority to act however he wants and whenever he wants. And this speaks exactly to that issue. So I would encourage you, just check out last week's sermon if you weren't here, because this is Israel's response to God's sovereignty, saying, you're not really sovereign. We have the temple. You can't touch us. So we realize this morning that God is asking us for so much more than simply proper religious observance. Because we know that's what Israel was doing. In fact, they were doing it pretty well. And Jeremiah called it a den of robbers. And Jesus himself, when he was alive on the earth, when he went into the temple, he experienced it the same way. He saw the temple with all of its business and all of its bustle, and he looked at the exact same phenomenon and just quoted from Jeremiah and said, this room is like a den of robbers. People who are just hiding out in here instead of living the integrated life, being completely nearsighted, satisfying the requirements of organized religion without having a true faith and a heart that is oriented to God. And Jeremiah speaks all over his book, reminding us exactly what God examines. Look at Jeremiah 17, verse 10. God is speaking. He says, I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind to reward each person according to their conduct, according to what their deeds deserve. So right there, God's looking at our hearts, our minds, conduct, deeds. It's the integrated life. It's that, the near, that's close. It's the far. It's all of it together, learning how to live that life that we have been called to. So, what exactly were they doing wrong? If you've been reading Jeremiah, and I hope you have, he's been really just hammering away at the nation of Israel for a few things, a few very, very big things that they've not been great at. One of them is idol worship. And he really mocks it ruthlessly. It's like, you're worshiping gods that people made out of wood. You're worshiping gods that can catch on fire. You're worshiping gods that can fall over and break. He really mocks them over and over for this. But beyond that, he also talks about how they are, or rather are not, caring for the people in their community. For example, in our passage in verse 5, He said, if you really change your ways and your actions and deal with each other justly, if you do not oppress the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow, and do not shed innocent blood in this place, and if you do not follow other gods to your own harm, then I will let you live in this place, in the land I gave your ancestors forever and ever. He mentioned specifically the foreigners, orphans, widows, and the innocent. And if you've been reading the Old Testament with us, and I hope you have, you've been hearing these words over and over and over and over, that God is calling his people to take care of those who need to be taken care of. That he's calling his people to bring God close to those who need him, those who are orphans, those who are innocent, widows, people from other countries. That we've been called, people in other countries, we've been called to care for them and to love them, to bring God close, to show them the compassion that we can have in their lives. Because when we fully grasp God's proximity, that he's present every day in all of our lives, then we realize the need that we have to live that integrated life. You know, all of you who are parents, you realize so quickly the difference in behavior when you are in the room and when you're out of the room, right? I can't tell you how many times I'll be reading a book and I'm in like the office that's in our house, and in the next room is like a major ruckus. All I have to do, as you know, parents, is take my book and go sit in there and read. And everything is fine, magically, right? It's like different people have moved into my home because I'm sitting there. Just my proximity alone will cure many of these behavior problems. And if not, well, we just fix the rest right there on the spot, don't we? When we have that proximity, when we understand that's really the role that God has in our lives, that he is with us, he's visible, he's present, then we want to please him. We want to live God's way. Now, anytime we start to talk about doing for God, people get a little nervous, and I understand this, because we're never going to earn God's favor. God has chosen to love us. He sent his son. We were bought at a price to be his followers, to be his people. So we don't want to learn this morning to follow God out of duty and certainly out of a quid pro quo expectation of reward. We just simply want to live the integrated life to please the God who is present and close in all of our lives. The New Testament picks up this thread so clearly, talking about how to combine understanding God's word and really living it out. In the book of James, it says, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror, and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do." Skip to verse 27. "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world." And so this morning we want to do something a little bit different. We've actually never done it here before. This is like, you guys are like live beta testing right here before our very eyes. Because, you know, it's actually, I think, personally, I think it's kind of difficult to leave here with a charge that says, all right, so now for the rest of today and this week and the rest of your life, please live a perfectly integrated life so that everything you say and do will honor God at all times. The end. Let's take the offering. Like, it's crazy to just walk out of here and say that's the charge. So we're going to break it down a little bit. That is our goal as Christians who are growing in maturity. There's no mistake about that. But we actually want to take a specific part of this and go after it fully. The charge that we have to care for the fatherless, the widow, the orphan, the innocent, the foreigner. And this morning, we're going to talk a little bit more about Haiti. Some of you were here a few weeks ago, and you know that Robert Kelly, our lead pastor, he was talking about how Beacon Church wants to grow for the first time in our ability to be involved in another country. Long Island is our love, and it's our call, and it's where we, are most engaged in active ministry, certainly. But we feel like God is calling us to have something going on beyond Long Island, to take the blessing that he's poured out in Beacon Church and have a role in another country. And we feel like, after praying and studying and talking to several respected people, we feel like that God is calling Beacon Church to become involved in the country of Haiti. And we're very excited about this, and we're going to be talking about kind of a two-tiered approach, of how we can minister to the people in Haiti. Did you know Haiti is actually about the size and population of New Jersey? It's the second oldest country in the Western Hemisphere to throw off its kind of colonial father, America being the first, Haiti was the second, but it's never really developed. Haiti, the life expectancy is only 57 years. Literacy rate, 53%. Access to safe water is 54% of all people. I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day, and we were saying, man, I really hate how Long Island water has chlorine in it. It kind of smells. 54% of all people have any access to clean water at all in the country of Haiti. It's mostly peasant farmers with very large families, so these farmers don't actually have enough land to feed their family, let alone have any sort of business going. In fact, that's why the average income in Haiti is about $450 a year. And because of disease, malnutrition, political problems, deforestation, about 3/4, 75% of the population lives in a condition that we would consider to be extreme poverty. It's a country that's having a lot of issues. It's a very difficult place for children especially. Only about 55% ever get to go to school. When a child is 6 years old, they're supposed to go to school, but there's a mandatory school fee that goes with it that most families don't have. So it's actually common for a kid to be in first grade when he's like 15 years old. Or a woman who's 14 or 15 years old would just simply, or a girl who's 14 or 15 years old would just simply get married. Because at that point, she needs some way to be taken care of and looked after. So we want to have a voice and a presence in Haiti. We're going to approach it from two different angles. The first is, there's actually a family who lives in Haiti that moved there about 6 months ago, and they are on the ground working with these peasant farmers, connecting them with experts on how to have sustainable farming practices. Their names are Gina and Steve Concepcion. I've known them for about 7 years. My wife's known them for probably 20 years. She wouldn't like that I just said that, but she's known them for 20 years since high school, so do the math yourself, okay? And, you know, they're a family that we've known for years and years, and we love them. And Gina was originally from Haiti, but lived in the States for about 20 years before she decided to go back. And they're missionaries there working with peasant farmers. And we're going to be talking more as leaders and as a congregation for how we can resource them in the ministry that they're doing in rural Haiti. On the other side of that, kind of our second tier, is we're going to be partnering with World Vision to sponsor children who are in Haiti. So check this out. So everyone, I would love for you to meet my friend Juan Martinez. We call him Wampa. Say hi to Wampa.
Good morning, everybody.
They sound sleepy already. Say hi to Wampa. Don't embarrass me like this in front of my friend. I'm telling you right now. Juan works with World Vision. In fact, he works with Team World Vision, and we're going to talk about why it's a team in just a minute. But I was hoping you could just talk to us a little bit more about the child sponsorship program and through World Vision. We have a few people in the congregation who sponsor children, but not very many. So I know they would just love to hear all about it and kind of what it's about.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here and share with you briefly about World Vision. A fact that most people don't know here in America is that World Vision is the largest humanitarian entity in the world. We're larger than the Red Cross, and we are a Christian faith organization. Our job is not simply to feed children and provide for the widows and people in distress or lead the way with justice, but our job truly is to spread the gospel. That is the passion behind us. And we resound in our hearts is a deep call that every time we share the words of the gospel, they come hand to hand with action. So we put our faith in action. We have a presence in over 100 countries worldwide. We have 40,000 employees. And pretty much what we do is we tackle the root issues of poverty and injustice. Things that are so foreign from this country, for example. I was personally born a little bit south of the equator in Colombia. And growing up, I experienced poverty. So when I had the privilege to move here and start a new life, a lot of the things that we take so lightly in America are priorities in the world. Just as Pastor Chris was sharing, water, nutrition, health, a Band-Aid. These are things that we so take it for granted, but are luxury in some places. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that's what World Vision is. We're a Christian organization dedicated to tackle the roots of injustice and poverty.
That's very cool. So what we've asked World Vision to do, usually the way that the World Vision Sponsor a Child program works is if you agree to sponsor a child, they really move you to the area of greatest need. But what we've asked them to do, and they're working with us on it, is we're going to sponsor kids who are in Haiti. And Haiti, of course, is not a huge place. And so I was talking recently to some of the other World Vision team as well, and they were explaining to me how, sometimes when you get 4 or 5 kids sponsored who all happen to go to the same school, that it will change the entire school. Because now World Vision might do training for the teachers because of those 5 kids who were sponsored. Or when you might get 10 kids who were sponsored in a metropolitan area, they might put in new wells and water storage systems. And it can change entire communities through these sponsorships. Now, why is it Team World Vision, though? What's the team part? Go ahead, lay it out for them.
Team World Vision, it's probably some of you know, which I know some of you actually run a race. We decided a few years ago to do an experiment and ask people to be crazy enough to run marathons and half marathons and 5Ks and fundraise money to do specifically water projects. So that became Team World Vision, and it's grown so much that now we have 9 staffs all over the nation. We have over 20 races where we are the official charity, and we just ask people, run a race, team up with us, and then we'll use that money to do water projects. As a matter of fact, I wanted to take this opportunity and say thank you to Beacon Church. You guys were rock stars last April. You had about 30 runners, and you fundraised over $13,000. Which is actually the amount of money that it requires to put a well in one of these ancient villages, whether it's Haiti or Africa, which are the 2 places that we're focusing right now. So thank you very much. You touch and change so many lives with the gift of water. So that's what we'll do for team. And Chris is one of our team members. I don't know if you want to share the challenge that you have ahead.
Yes, I committed on your behalf. Yes, I'm going to run the New York City Marathon, November 6th. So our goal, my friends, a marathon is 26.2 miles. So our goal is to sponsor a kid for every mile of the marathon. Now, it feels like 50 miles, so maybe we should shoot for 50 kids. But our goal is to sponsor 26 kids for this marathon. Now, I don't want to tell you which church it was, but a friend of mine who's a pastor, he talked to his church about running the marathon. And they sponsored 50 kids the first Sunday.
52.
So I'm just saying that I can never show my face at Centerpoint Church again unless you guys like somehow, now I'm really excited, and what Juan was saying is true. You know, we participated, you probably remember, in the half marathon and 5K. A whole bunch of you ran. I see you guys scattered around. And it was a very cool story. I've only told a couple of you this. I went to pick up my jersey and my number, of course, and I needed a few more shirts. So I went to the shirt table, and there were two people there from World Vision that I didn't know. So I said to them, Juan and I had done kind of a funny thing, and I said to them, hi, I need to pick up like 5 shirts, but I need to give you money for like 30 shirts. You know, so you guys are apparently like amazing marketers because I'm going to pay you all this money for like 5 shirts. So we just started talking. I said, I'm from Beacon Church. So they said, Beacon Church, all right. And they flip over. They had this like secret little sheet that I'd never seen before, right? They list all the churches who are participating in this whole regional like tri-state area event. And do you know how many churches raised more money than Beacon Church? I'm going to tell you, 3 churches raised more money than Beacon Church. And I don't mean per person. I mean period, okay? And I knew every church on that list, and they're all way bigger. So you guys are awesome. So that was spectacular. So that's why they gave me one of their marathon spots. So now we need to come through. So what we're going to do here is we're going to wrap up in just a few minutes. And I think a lot of you are going to want to respond right now. You know, there's no reason to kind of tiptoe around the issue. To sponsor a child is $35 a month, I think. So we're talking about just a little bit more than $1 a day to really change a kid and a family's life. And this kid, I know I've been sponsoring a child actually since 2006. His name is Ishimwe, and he's in Rwanda. And he actually sends us letters, like once a year. And then the translator will put a little note because, of course, she helped him. And he talks to us about, and we like send him a little present for his birthday. And I know Juan sponsors a child. He's got his guy right here, actually. What's his name?
It's a girl.
A girl?
Nadia.
Oh, very cute.
She just turned 11 in Kenya.
That's great. And so I think a lot of you are going to want to respond today. You know, the marathon is obviously just kind of a mild encouragement because this is an amazing, worthwhile venture. So we want to make it easy for you. Juan actually just set up workstations in the back. We're just going to be paperless and easy. And I hope that you'll want to respond today. This is not a hard sell, and I think you understand, you know, Beacon Church doesn't get anything out of this. There's no money side of it for us. We just want to put tools in your hands so that you can be fully resourced to live that integrated life. Because I know you and I know this congregation. I know you have a heart for God's people. I know you have a heart for doing His work. And so I hope this morning that you'll stop by, you'll see Wampa at his table, you'll sponsor 1 or 2 kids and really start to change the lives of some of these people in Haiti. So let me say a prayer for us. God, I thank you for the incredible blessing that you've put in our lives as Americans and as New Yorkers, and I thank you for the blessing that Beacon Church has been to all of us. God, I thank you that your word is true. And we know that many of the truths in it, they're not always warm and fuzzy, they're not always easy to hear, but we know that your teaching is so sound, and it's our goal today, God, to continue along our journey of learning how to live an integrated and holy life in exactly the calling that you have given to us. God, I pray that from Beacon Church, dozens and dozens of children would be sponsored, that we can pour our resources into these families in Haiti so that they would know the love of Christ and that they would have food, water, nourishment, medical care, education, that their lives would be touched and they would know that it all comes from you. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, would you just thank Juan for coming?